What waterfall has the largest flow of water?
Niagara Falls, on the border of Canada and the United States between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. Has 212,000 cubic feet, 6,000 cubic meters, of water flowing over its 173 and 182-foot high. 52.7-55.5 meter high set of falls. There are two adjacent waterfalls.
Where does the Loch Ness Monster live?
The fabled monster is supposed to live in Loch Ness. The term loch is Gaelic and is used in Scotland to refer to a lake or narrow inlet of the sea. Loch Ness is fully surrounded by land and is therefore a lake.
How high is tree line?
Tree lines vary, depending on where they are in the world and how close they are to a geographic pole. Trees stop growing in mountain regions from around 2,600 feet, 800 meters. In places such as Sweden, to over 17,000 feet, 5,200 meters, in the Andes Mountains in Bolivia.
What is the difference between a state and a state?
A state, with a capital S, is equivalent to a country. A state, with a lowercase s, is a division of a country, like the states that make up the United States.
Has global warming affected the ice on Mt. Kilimanjaro?
Global warming has indeed affected the glacial ice on top of Mt. Kilimanjaro in Tanzania and has caused as much as 80% of the ice to permanently disappear. Scientists believe that by the year 2020 there will be no more snow on top of the mountain. How was Mt?
What is Europe's oldest independent state?
San Marino claims to have been founded in the year 301 C. Its first constitution was established in 1600. San Marino is located on Mt. Titano in Italy and, at 24 square miles, 62 square kilometers in area, is one of the world's smallest independent countries.
Is there enough food to feed the world?
Though there is enough food produced in the world to feed everyone, logistical and political problems make its distribution inefficient. At the current rate of world population growth, We may soon have to change our eating habits and eat more grain and less meat. There is a limited amount of grain that the earth can produce. Currently, much of this grain is consumed by cattle, rather than humans. If humans were to eat the grain instead of eating the cattle, the calories from the grain would be 20 times more efficient than those from beef.
Who was the greatest explorer of the Arab world?
Known as the Muslim Marco Polo, Ibn Battuta, 1304–1369, explored much of Africa and Asia. In his lifetime, Ibn Battuta traveled over 75,000 miles, 120,000 kilometers. Gaining the reputation of the most traveled man on earth.
Who was the first person to reach the South Pole?
In 1911, the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen and the British explorer Robert Scott were racing against each other to be the first to reach the South Pole. On December 4, 1911, Amundsen and his crew of 4 reached the South Pole at 90 degrees south. Approximately 1 month later, Scott and his team arrived at the pole. Depressed from their defeat and with inadequate supplies of food, Scott and his team died while trying to return to their base camp.
How do you drive to the island country of Bahrain?
Bahrain is located 15 miles, 24 kilometers, off the coast of Saudi Arabia and has been connected by a 4-lane causeway bridge to Saudi Arabia since 1986. Saudi Arabia paid for the construction of the causeway.
What is the Giro d'Italia?
The Giro d'Italia is the second most important multi-stage bicycle race in Europe. It began in 1909, and instead of a yellow jacket for the fastest stage winner, recipients wear a pink-colored jersey reminiscent of the newspaper. Publisher and founder of the race's use of pink newsprint for his newspapers.
How did the Guano Island Act help fertilize America?
In 1856, the United States Congress passed the Guano Island Act, which allowed the United States to take possession of any unclaimed island that contained guano. Guano, the excrement of seabirds, was mined for use as fertilizer before the widespread use of chemical fertilizers. Beginning in 1857, the Baker and Howland Islands, located southwest of Hawaii, were mined by the United States until their guano was depleted in 1891.
What are the 5 most populous U.S. states?
The 5 most populous states are California, 33.8 million, Texas, 20.8 million, New York, 18.9 million, Florida, 15.9 million, and Illinois, 12.4 million.
Military attacked or occupied since the beginning of the year 2000.
The U.S. has invaded or occupied 14 foreign lands since 2000, including Macedonia, Afghanistan, Yemen, Philippines, Colombia, Iraq, Liberia, Haiti, Pakistan, Somalia, Georgia, Djibouti, Côte d'Ivoire, and Sierra Leone.
What percentage of Americans have used cocaine?
Approximately 14% of the U.S. population uses or has used cocaine.
When was daylight saving time instituted?
Though Benjamin Franklin suggested the concept of daylight saving time in 1784, it was not implemented in the United States until World War I. Between World Wars I and II, states and communities were allowed to choose whether or not to observe the change. During World War II, Franklin Roosevelt again implemented daylight saving time. Finally, in 1966, Congress passed the Uniform Time Act, which standardized the length of the daylight saving time period. But states and territories can choose not to observe daylight saving time. Arizona, Hawaii, parts of Indiana, Puerto Rico, and some island territories have chosen not to observe daylight saving time.
What is a dhoni?
A dhoni is a traditional wooden Maldivian fishing boat.
Which country is composed of 7 sheikdoms?
The country of United Arab Emirates, located on the Arabian Peninsula, is composed of 7 sheikdoms, also known as emirates. The 7 emirates were defended by the United Kingdom in the 19th century, but merged to become an independent country in 1971. The 7 emirates, Abu Dhabi, Oman, Al Fujairah, Ash-Sharqa, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, and Al Quwain, are presently quite autonomous.
Has the Mediterranean Sea always been there?
Salt and sediment found at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea prove that on several occasions the Mediterranean Sea has dried up, leaving a large layer of salt behind. Scientists speculate that the Strait of Gibraltar has, on occasion, closed up, keeping water from being able to flow back and forth between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea.
How thick is Greenland's ice sheet?
Greenland's ice sheet is more than 2 miles thick.
What other countries have border disputes?
For years, India and Pakistan have had disputes about the borders of Kashmir, a region located in northern India. Other countries in Central America, like Honduras and El Salvador, have had disputes over very small parcels of land because of ill-defined border markings implemented during the country's colonial period.
What is the difference between Central and Latin America?
Central America includes the countries that connect North and South America and are located between Mexico and Colombia. The 7 countries of Central America are Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. Latin America is a much broader term and includes Central America as well as Mexico and all of the countries of South America.
How many potentially hazardous asteroids is NASA tracking that could impact the Earth in the 21st century?
More than 210 FAs are on NASA's list of most likely objects whose orbital paths may bring them close to Earth's orbit sometime in the next 100 to 200 years. Scientists have not fully calculated the risks because they still need to figure out the effects of gravity of various planetary bodies on the exact course of the asteroids.
What is the longest river in Europe?
The Volga River, which lies entirely within Russia, is Europe's longest river. The Volga River flows 2,290 miles, 3,685 kilometers, from the Valdai Hills, near the city of Rzhev, into the Caspian Sea.
What Russian city lost the most people during World War II?
During the German 900-day siege of Leningrad, St. Petersburg, from 1941 to 1943, nearly 1.5 million people lost their lives.
Who won the Cold War?
The stalemate of the Cold War effectively ended when the people and governments of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc countries decided that they needed a major change in the way in which they organized their government, societies, and economies. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 was only one indicator of the significance of this trend. Popular demonstrations and changes took place in all parts of the former USSR and Eastern Europe, leading inexorably to the downfall of the Soviet Union and its control of satellite states.
Why does Greenland appear larger on most maps than it actually is?
Because of the distortions that must appear on all maps. Many maps place the distortion in the northern and southern extremes of the Earth. In one of the common projections, known as Mercator, Greenland appears to be similar in size to South America. Despite the fact that South America is actually 8 times larger than Greenland. The advantage of the Mercator projection is that the lines of latitude and longitude remain perpendicular. Thus the map is useful for navigation.
When was the most territory added to the United States at one time?
In 1803, the United States purchased over 800,000 square miles. 2 million square kilometers, of land from France for $15 million. This territory, known as the Louisiana Purchase, extended from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains and doubled the size of the United States.
Where are hot springs used by people around the world?
Hot spring baths have been used in cultures throughout the world since ancient times. They are found in such places as Japan, Taiwan, Australia, the United States, Iceland, and Sicily.
Why don't FM radio waves travel very far?
FM radio waves are line of sight, which means they can only travel as far as their power and the height of their radio antenna will allow. The taller the antenna, the farther the waves can travel along the horizon. As long as they have enough power.
What are latitude and longitude lines?
Lines of latitude and longitude make up a grid system that was developed to help determine the location of points on the Earth. These lines run both north and south and east and west across the planet. Lines of latitude, those that run east and west, begin at the equator, which is 0 degrees. They extend to the North Pole and the South Pole, which are 90 degrees north and 90 degrees south, respectively. Lines of longitude, those that run north and south, begin at the prime meridian, which is the imaginary line that runs through the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England. The lines of longitude extend both east and west from the prime meridian, which is 0 degrees, and converge on the opposite side of the Earth at 180 degrees.
How was Niagara Falls stopped?
The water from the Niagara River falls over two waterfalls, divided by Goat Island. Only 6% of the water from the Niagara River falls over American Falls, while Horseshoe Falls, or Canadian Falls, carries the majority of the water. In 1969, a temporary dam was built to divert the water from American Falls to Horseshoe Falls for several months in order to study the erosion endemic to both waterfalls.
What is Machu Picchu?
Machu Picchu is an ancient Incan city constructed at an elevation of 8,000 feet, 2,438 meters above sea level, and located about 43 miles, 69 kilometers, northwest of Cuzco in Peru. It was built by the Incan ruler Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui between 1460 and 1470. It is comprised of more than 200 buildings, which are visited by thousands of tourists each year. Tourists reach the city either by bus or by a ritualistic 20-mile hike to the summit. It was rediscovered by a Yale University team, headed by Hiram Bingham, in 1911. Some argue that other explorers may have discovered the site earlier, including a German businessman named Augusto Bern in the 1880s.
What do AM and PM mean?
The distinctions AM and PM are abbreviations for ante-meridiem and post-meridiem, which mean before midday and after midday, respectively.
What is the world's busiest seaport?
Shanghai, China, is the busiest seaport, moving more than 443 million tons of cargo annually. It is followed by Singapore, with 423 million tons. And Rotterdam, the Netherlands, which handles 376 million tons.
Why do we have daylight saving time?
By moving our clocks forward 1 hour between spring and fall. We more effectively utilize the light of the sun to keep homes and businesses lit, saving electricity.
How much of the ozone layer is being depleted?
Since 1975, scientists believe that more than 33% of the ozone layer has disappeared. There is a seasonal factor to the reduction in ozone at any given time during the year, too. At different times, the ozone layer naturally declines or rises. But scientists also know that chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, which are used for air conditioning, aerosol sprays, halon in fire extinguishers, and the interaction of man-made chemicals with nitrogen in our atmosphere, directly cause ozone depletion. It is a man-made problem that requires a man-made solution.
In the past, how many people were sold into slavery in the United States?
Until the 19th century and the end of the Civil War, the United States had a long history of slavery. During the African diaspora, beginning in 1619, approximately 12 to 13 million Africans were taken from their homes and sold into slavery in the Americas and the Caribbean. The majority of the slaves who survived the voyage were sent to Brazil. By the beginning of the American Civil War, nearly 240 years after the first slaves arrived in the American colonies, 4 million people were held as slaves, principally in the South, where slave ownership was legal and was a main source of labor for agriculture.
How are mountains formed?
The process of orogeny, or mountain building, is related to continental drift. When two tectonic plates collide, they often form mountains. The Himalayas are the result of the Indo-Australian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate. At these collision zones, volcanoes and earthquakes are common.
Did everyone during Christopher Columbus's time think that the world was flat?
No, they did not. Though the common perception is that Christopher Columbus had to convince King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella that the world was a sphere. Columbus actually had to convince the king and queen of the circumference of the world. Though the ancient Greeks had discovered that the earth was a sphere, centuries passed before this was generally accepted. By the 15th century, however, the time of Columbus's sailing, most educated people believed the world to be round.
How many states are in Mexico?
Mexico is divided into 31 states plus the Federal District of Mexico City. The largest state is Chihuahua, located in northern Mexico. With 95,400 square miles, 247,086 square kilometers. The most populous state is the state of Mexico, located west of Mexico City, with 14 million people.
How many times have North and South Korea met to negotiate a solution to the division of Korea in Panmunjom?
Both sides have met nearly 400 times to negotiate an end to the division.
Which non-island nations have the fewest neighbors?
There are 10 non-island countries that share a land border with just one neighbor, Canada, neighboring USA. Monaco, France, San Marino, Italy, Vatican, Italy, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Portugal. Spain, Gambia, Senegal, Denmark, Germany, Lesotho, South Africa, and South Korea, North Korea.
What state has only one legislative body?
Nebraska has a unicameral legislature, all other 49 states have 2 houses.
What part of Southeast Asia is one of the most contested geographic regions in the world?
The Spratly Islands are a group of 100 small islands, islets, and reefs in the South China Sea. They are located between Vietnam, the Philippines, and East Malaysia. Though only comprised of 2 square miles, 5.2 square kilometers, and spread across 158,000 square miles. 400,000 square kilometers, of the South China Sea, these islands are of strategic importance. Ownership is contested by Vietnam, China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Taiwan. Oil fields that yield nearly 15% of the petroleum used by the Philippines have been the center of the dispute. Each country feels that it should be able to negotiate and profit from the lucrative contracts and benefits that oil exploration and production might bring.
Are all countries divided into 1-hour time zones?
No. China and some other countries do not divide their territory by time zones at all. Several countries use half-hour time zones, including Afghanistan, Australia, Burma, India, Iran, the Marquesas, and Venezuela. Also, the Canadian province of Newfoundland uses half-hour zones. Quarter-hour divisions are used in Nepal, as well as in some provinces, including the Chatham Islands.
Where on the planet is it light 24 hours a day in the summer?
In the extreme north and south parts of the Earth, north of 66.5 degrees north, and south of 66.5 degrees south latitudes. It is light 24 hours a day during the summer and dark 24 hours a day during the winter. Northern cities like Reykjavik, Iceland, and Murmansk, Russia, have nearly 24 hours of daylight for a short period of time during the summer months.
What is continental drift?
The Earth is divided into massive pieces of crust that are called tectonic plates. These plates lie wedged together like a puzzle. The plates slowly move, crashing into each other to form mountain ranges, volcanoes, and earthquakes. The plates are like rafts floating on water. This is called continental drift.
How fast do you have to travel west to arrive earlier than when you left?
Normally, when flying between London and New York, the trip takes 7 hours. Thus, with the 5-hour difference in time between the two cities, you arrive 2 hours later than when you left London. If you could have flown on the now decommissioned Concorde, which traveled at Mach 2, 1,300 miles 2,092 kilometers per hour, 2 times the speed of sound, the trip between London and New York would have taken only 3 hours. Thus, with the 5-hour difference in time zones, you would have arrived 2 hours earlier than when you left.
What is the most populous country in the world?
China is home to more than 1.32 billion people, which means that 1 in every 5 people on the planet is Chinese. India, the second most populous country, has 1.13 billion people and is expected to surpass China's population sometime before 2050. Both countries have much larger populations than the third largest country, the United States, which is home to 304 million people.
What is a wadi?
Wadi is the Arabic word for a gully or other stream bed that is dry for most of the year. A wadi is a channel for streams that develop during the short rainy season. The channels of wadis were probably initially carved when the desert regions of today had more rainfall.
What is an oxbow lake?
An oxbow lake is a crescent-shaped lake that is formed when the meander or curve of a river is cut off from the rest of the river during a flood. or when the curve of the meander becomes so large that the river begins flowing along a new path. The curve that remains becomes its own lake. These can commonly be seen along the Mississippi River system.
Who lives in the city of the dead?
There lies on the outskirts of Cairo, Egypt, a very old cemetery filled with mausoleums, memorials, and mosque-shaped tombs and shrines. Because of severe overcrowding in Cairo, squatters now live inside these memorials to the dead. In what is called by many the City of the Dead. Recently, the Egyptian government provided the area with electricity and water. Built as a home for the dead, this cemetery is now becoming a home for the living.
Which is further west, Los Angeles, California, or Reno, Nevada?
Though Nevada is California's eastern neighbor and Los Angeles sits on the Pacific coast, Reno is farther west than Los Angeles. Reno is located at 119 degrees 49 minutes west, while Los Angeles is located at 118 degrees 14 minutes west.
What is the Commonwealth of Independent States?
The Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS. Established by Russia just after the fall of the Soviet Union, is an organization that serves to keep the resources of the Soviet Union flowing between the now independent countries. 10 of the 15 former Soviet republics are members: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Russia, Tajikistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. The Republic of Georgia withdrew in 2006, and Turkmenistan withdrew in 2005.
What is the difference between climate and weather?
Climate is the long-term, usually 30-year, average weather for a particular place. The weather is the current condition of the atmosphere. So, the weather in Barrow, Alaska, might be a hot 70 degrees Fahrenheit. But its tundra climate is generally polar-like and cold.
Where do most legal immigrants to the United States come from?
Of the approximately 1.2 million immigrants who come to live in the United States legally, Mexico is the top country of origin, 14.4%, followed by the People's Republic of China, 7.2%, and the Philippines, 6.2%.
When did the 21st century begin?
The 21st century began at 12 o'clock a.m. on January 1, 2001. Since the 1st century, which span the years 1 to 100, centuries have been counted beginning with the year ending in 01 rather than 00. For instance, the 20th century consists of the years 1901 through 2000.
Who invented the traffic signal?
The red, yellow, and green traffic signal that we are familiar with today was originally invented by Garrett Morgan in 1923. Morgan, who was also the inventor of the gas mask, received numerous awards for his invention.
What is a Reich?
The word Reich literally means empire in German. The First Reich is considered to be the Holy Roman Empire from 800 to 1806 CE. The Second Reich was Germany, united under Otto von Bismarck, from 1871 to 1918. In 1933, Adolf Hitler established the Third Reich. The Nazi regime, which lasted until the defeat of Germany at the end of World War II, in 1945.
What is a willy willy?
Willy Willy is the Australian name for a hurricane.
What is the northernmost landmass in the world?
Cape Morris Jesup, located in Greenland's Peary Land, is the northernmost point of land in the world. The cape is at 83 degrees 38 minutes north.
What is the jet stream?
The jet stream is a band of swiftly moving air located high in the atmosphere. The jet stream meanders across the troposphere and stratosphere, up to 30 miles 48 kilometers high, and affects the movement of storms and air masses closer to the ground.
What is the Oglala Aquifer?
The Oglala Aquifer is a huge aquifer that spans an area from Texas to Colorado and Nebraska. The oldest water deposited in the aquifer is over 1 million years old, and only a very small amount of water is added each year. The Oglala Aquifer is being pumped rapidly by the farms in the region, causing a reduction in the amount of water in the aquifer. Consequently, wells have to be continually deepened so that they can continue to pump water.
How many Great Lakes are there?
There are 5 Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. The acronym HOMES can help you to remember the names of the 5 Great Lakes. All of the lakes except Michigan lie on the U.S. Canada border.
What is the highest fjord in Norway?
The highest fjord is Sognefjord, which begins at a depth of 4,291 feet. 1,308 meters, in the ocean and rises to more than 3,280 feet, 1,000 meters.
What city is named for a game show?
The popular radio game show Truth or Consequences offered to host its 10th anniversary show in a city that would change its name to the show's title. In 1950, Hot Springs, New Mexico changed its name, and the 10th anniversary show was broadcast from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. The city still holds the name today.
Who are the Sunni and Shiite Muslims?
The Sunni and Shiite are 2 sects of Islam. About 85% of Muslims are Sunnis, while Shiism is especially prevalent in Iran. After Muhammad's death, 2 relatives claimed to succeed him. Their followers developed into the 2 sects.
How wide is a degree of longitude?
Though there are only a couple dozen lines of longitude shown on most globes and world maps, the Earth is actually divided into 360 lines of longitude. The distance between each line of longitude is called a degree. Because the lines of longitude are widest at the equator and converge at the poles, the width of a degree varies from 69 miles, 111 kilometers, wide to 0, respectively.
What is the highest railroad in the world?
The Qinghai-Tibet Railroad is the highest railroad in the world, climbing to more than 16,737 feet, 5,072 meters. It connects Lhasa, Tibet, to the rest of China on 709 miles, 1,142 kilometers, of track. Because of the high altitudes of the sections of the track, each rail car includes a supply of oxygen for its passengers. More than 1.5 million people used the train in its first year of operation in July 2006.
How many provinces are in Canada?
Canada is divided into 10 provinces and 3 territories. The 10 provinces are Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, and Saskatchewan. Canada's territories are Yukon Territory, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut.
How did North and South Korea come to be?
From 1392 to 1910 the Korean peninsula was the home of the Choson Kingdom, as it is referred to by its inhabitants. In 1910 Japan took control of the peninsula but lost this territory after its defeat in World War II. North and South Korea are still divided by a line that lies near the latitude of 38 degrees north. This latitude marked the line dividing the Soviet occupation zone in the north and the American occupation zone in the south following World War II. From 1950 to 1953, the Communist North Koreans fought with the Democratic South Koreans, with American forces involved in the Korean War. North Korea's army was eventually forced to retreat into China, though it later recaptured land to the 38th parallel, where the border between the two Koreas remains today.
Why was Eisenhower a fan of interstate highways?
In 1919, the young Dwight D. Eisenhower took part in a cross-country military trip from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco. But, due to the state of the highways at that time, the trip took 62 days, far too long to defend the country should the need arise. This experience made Eisenhower realize the need for a faster, more efficient mode of transportation across the country. Because of President Eisenhower's support for the interstate highway system, it is now officially known as the Dwight D. Eisenhower System of Interstate and Defense Highways.
How much does a gallon of water weigh?
Water is quite a heavy substance. 1 gallon of water at room temperature weighs about 8.33 pounds, 3.78 kilograms.
How do people cope with continual light or darkness in high latitudes?
Murmansk, Russia, is the largest city north of the Arctic Circle. The city receives no sunlight for several months out of the year, making it one of the most psychologically extreme environments on the planet. Residents of the city, about 470,000, walk along artificially lit streets that give the appearance of sunlight, undergo artificial sun treatments, much like tanning booths, and often suffer from the condition known as polar night stress. Polar night stress symptoms include fatigue, depression, vision problems, and susceptibility to colds and flus.
Do oases really exist?
Oases do exist and they are quite prevalent throughout the eastern Sahara Desert in Africa. An oasis has a source of water, often a spring, that allows vegetation to grow. Small towns are located at some larger oases in the desert. Oases have been traditional stopping places for nomads traveling across deserts.
What revolution attempted to stop world hunger?
Begun in the 1960s, the Green Revolution was an attempt by developed countries and such international organizations as the United Nations to transfer agricultural technology to less developed countries. While the Green Revolution increased agricultural yields, it modified the ecology of traditional agricultural systems, such as through the use of chemical fertilizers, and has yet to cure world hunger.
What is Oceania?
Oceania is the region in the central and southern Pacific that includes Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and the islands that compose Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia.
What are some of the oldest, continuously inhabited cities in the world and when were they established?
Some of the oldest cities still inhabited today are Jericho, Palestine, founded 9000 BCE, Byblos, Lebanon, founded 5000 BCE, Damascus, Syria, founded 4300 BCE. Aleppo, Syria, founded 4300 BCE, and Susa, Iran, founded 4200 BCE.
What is the world's most densely populated island?
The Indonesian island of Java is the world's most densely populated island. It has a total population of over 124 million, which, when placed within its 51,000 square miles, 132,000 square kilometers, of land, gives it a density of over 2,431 people per square mile. Indonesia's capital city, Jakarta, is located on the island of Java.
What is air pollution?
Air pollution is caused by many sources. There are natural pollutants that have been around as long as the Earth, such as dust, smoke, volcanic ash, and pollens. Humans have added to air pollution with chemicals and particulates due to combustion and industrial activity.
How have satellites changed map making?
Satellite images, which are accurate photographs of the Earth's surface, allow cartographers to precisely determine the location of roads, cities, rivers, and other features on the Earth. These images help cartographers create maps that are more accurate than ever before. Since the Earth is a dynamic and ever-changing place, satellite images are great tools that allow cartographers to stay up to date.
How many airports are there in the United States?
There are approximately 19,379 airports in the United States, including 5,233 that are designated for public use.
Which continent has the highest average elevation?
The average elevation of Antarctica, approximately 8,000 feet. 2,438 meters, is higher than that of any other continent. The highest point in Antarctica is Vinson Massif, with an elevation of 16,860 feet, 5,139 meters.
How fast does the Earth spin?
It depends on where you are on the planet. If you were standing on the North Pole or close to it, you would be moving at a very slow rate of speed, nearly 0 miles per hour. On the other hand, those who live at the equator, and therefore have to move about 24,900 miles, 40,000 kilometers in a 24-hour period, zoom at about 1,038 miles, 1,670 kilometers, per hour. Those in the mid-latitudes, as in the United States, breeze along from about 700 to 900 miles, 1,126 to 1,448 kilometers, per hour.
What did the phrase 5440 or fight mean?
In the mid-19th century, many Americans wanted to see the United States territory expand northward into the area now known as Canada. The phrase 5440 or fight referred to the desire to move the boundary northward to 54 degrees 40 minutes north, which would have encompassed much of southern Canada. Ultimately, the boundary was fixed at 49 degrees north, where it sits today.
Who discovered the source of the Nile River?
In 1856, John Hanning Speke was sent by the British Royal Geographical Society to discover lakes believed to exist in eastern Africa. In 1858, Speke and fellow explorer Sir Richard Francis Burton discovered Lake Tanganyika. Speke and Burton split, and while traveling on his own, Speke discovered Lake Victoria and claimed it to be the source of the Nile River. Though many did not believe the lake was the source. Speke returned to the lake in 1860 and proved Lake Victoria was indeed the source of the Nile River.
What was the Trail of Tears?
In 1838, the United States rounded up approximately 15,000 members of the Cherokee Nation and forced them from their homes in Tennessee to a reservation in Oklahoma. The removal of the Cherokee Nation from their land was done so that citizens of the United States could use the fertile lands in Tennessee. Along the trail, approximately one-fourth of the Cherokees died from malnutrition, disease, and government inefficiency.
How much did the population of New Orleans decline after Hurricane Katrina struck?
Although many residents returned in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans's population has declined by more than 53% since the 2005 disaster.
Why did the sun never set on the British Empire?
In the early 20th century, the United Kingdom included colonies from North and South America, Canada, British Guiana, and Bermuda, Africa, Egypt, South Africa, and Nigeria, Asia, India and Burma, and Oceania, Australia and New Zealand. Because the British Empire spanned the globe, there was always at least one portion of the empire in daylight.
How many tourists visit Russia each year?
Approximately 1.6 million people travel to Russia each year. The majority of these tourists are from Germany, followed by the United States, China, Great Britain, Italy, France, Japan, and Spain.
What do medical geographers do?
Medical geographers and epidemiologists, scientists who study disease and health, regularly use maps and spatial information to help control illness and death. Mapping has solved the mystery behind high levels of cancer in small areas and has been used to understand the spread of AIDS. Medical geographers don't just study the distribution of disease. They also investigate the accessibility of people to health services.
Where is the Jutland Peninsula?
The Jutland Peninsula extends north from Germany and is home to the country of Denmark.
Why isn't Taiwan recognized by the U.S. government?
The People's Republic of China has had a dispute with Taiwan since the nationalists, who were fighting the communists on the mainland, fled to Taiwan at the end of World War II. Decades later, as China became more powerful in the eyes of various American political administrations, China gave the United States a choice: recognize China or Taiwan. But not both. The United States chose China, although officially not recognized. Taiwan is one of the United States' strongest allies in the region, and one of its most significant trading partners. Taiwan has very close official and unofficial ties with the United States.
What is an urban area?
An urban area consists of a central city and its surrounding suburbs. Urban areas are also known as metropolitan areas. In some cases, urban areas can spread dozens of miles beyond the central city.
Did an asteroid kill the dinosaurs?
Approximately 65 million years ago, a 6-mile wide, about 10-kilometer wide, asteroid struck the Earth. This impact might have started a chain of events that led to the extinction of about 2/3 of the Earth's species of animals and plants, including the dinosaurs. An asteroid that large would have created a layer of dust that would have surrounded the Earth, lowering temperatures, and causing deadly, highly acidic rain.
What is the AAG?
The Association of American Geographers, AAG, is a professional organization of academic geographers and geography students. The AAG was founded in 1904 and publishes 2 key academic journals in geography: the Annals of the Association of American Geographers and the Professional Geographer. The AAG also holds annual conferences and supports regional and specialty groups of geographers.
How many capital cities does South Africa have?
South Africa has 3 capitals. Pretoria is the administrative capital. Bloemfontein is the capital of the judiciary, and Cape Town is the legislative capital.
When was the first freeway built in the United States?
The first freeway, lacking tolls and having limited access in the United States was the Arroyo Seco Freeway, connecting Pasadena and downtown Los Angeles. It opened in 1940 and is now the Pasadena Freeway, Highway 110.
Is it possible to drive across Russia?
It certainly is. Most of the urban areas of Russia have modern expressways. But in the vast expanse of the country east of Moscow, many of the roads are rough gravel or dirt and are only intermittently paved. Driving across Russia is therefore entirely dependent upon the season. During the winter, from November to May, the roads are frozen and can be driven upon. During the summer, many roads become quagmires and are unusable.
Who owns Walvis Bay?
When Namibia gained independence from South Africa in 1990, South Africa kept control of Walvis Bay. Located approximately 400 miles, 644 kilometers, north of the South African border. The excellent harbor and deep water port of Walvis Bay was retained for 4 years, until it was returned to Namibia on March 1, 1994.
What is the driest state?
Nevada averages only 7.5 inches, 19 centimeters of rainfall annually, making it the driest state in the Union.
What is a Mediterranean climate?
A Mediterranean climate is a climate similar to the one found along the Mediterranean Sea. Hot and dry in the summer and warm and wet in the winter. Areas that are renowned for having Mediterranean climates but are not near the Mediterranean Sea are California and Chile.